And we're live and alive. Hey, everybody. Rex Spare Leak Project. How the heck are you? We have Brian from Visual Disturbance with us. This is really cool. It was actually Jacob Israel that ended up hooking us up. So I thought that was really nice of him. He said, Rex, I've got a friend named Brian that watches your shows, and he's got a really cool channel. And we got to know each other, and it's like we've known each other forever. So folks, we're going to get into 3i Atlas today. We're going to look at the latest footage that was available, just came out today via European Space Agency. We still have no high-resolution images from the high-rise. NASA's not showing us much. We saw some from the James Webb Telescope a few weeks ago, but nothing really updated. And some are wondering, hey, did the government shut down intentionally so they didn't have to show off this footage of 3i Atlas? But it's also kind of weird because China didn't shut down. The CCP didn't shut down. They haven't really given us any footage. The European Space Agency is showing us a little bit, but it's nothing that spectacular. So what about the other nations that have space programs? We're not seeing footage from them. Why? Very weird. The narrative, there's a lot of people that question, could this actually be some type of artificial spaceship? Is it a probe? So I've even heard things like, is it possibly one of the Kachinas that was talked about in prophecy? And time's going to tell, but it's a perfect time to play the alien invasion card. Whether or not it's really an alien invasion or not, it's a perfect time to kind of put that out there in the media. And we're going to talk about that today. Are we witnessing potentially the alien invasion card? Are they going to play it the way that we think they are? Or is it going to be the carrot at the end of the stick? Because it seems like it's oftentimes the carrot at the end of the stick. It has been for years. They haven't given us full disclosure yet. And even with this, will they give us full disclosure? So we're going to talk about it. I also, real quick, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor. I wanted to thank Noble Gold Investments today for being a sponsor of Leak Project. And I wanted to let you know about an awesome opportunity. If you have a 401 or an IRA and you convert your 401 or IRA into precious metals, there is an awesome 10-ounce silver bar waiting for you, as well as a 1 silver American Eagle proof coin waiting for you. This will be gifted to you when you convert your 401 or IRA. All qualifying conversions, call it Noble Gold Investments and find out how. Their number is 1-877-646-5347. You can go to noblegoldinvestments.com. Gold has gone mainstream. You're seeing it everywhere. Prices keep climbing every day. More Americans are catching on to the power of gold. How do you take advantage of it? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Their specialists are trained to help investors like you go from confused to confident, from wondering what's next to knowing exactly what to do, whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into a gold IRA, or you want physical coins or bars mailed directly to your house. Noble Gold makes the process simple, safe, and stress-free. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. You get step-by-step guidance, transparent pricing, U.S.-based service from a team that's handled over $2.5 billion in precious metal transactions. Hello, that's a lot. So with Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job. It's literally their commitment. NobleGoldInvestments.com. Visit them today. Let them know Rex from Leak Project sent you. And let's get into this. Buckle up, Buttercup. Brian, tell us about yourself, man.
Well, Rex, I'll tell you what, man. I'm privileged tonight and so blessed and thankful to be part of this tonight on Leak Project. It's not every day that I get to hang out with somebody so cool from the West Coast and a cool audience. So tonight, I'm from the Bluegrass State of Kentucky, East Side, West Side, coming together, collaborating and talking about one of my favorite topics of the UFO phenomenon. And we're even going to be throwing in some testimonial from just the last 5 years or 6 years or so when it comes to this and my personal walk. But yeah, I'm Brian Reese of Visual Disturbance. It's a privilege to be here. I come from the Bluegrass State of Kentucky. A lot of people talk about what's the whole thing going on with the Visual Disturbance? Well, short and sweet version of that. I used to be a milkman, believe it or not. My occupation used to be a milkman. I delivered milk to stores. Believe it or not, they still make those milkmen out there. And it was my occupation for several years and enjoyed it a lot, but also had a little, let's just say, horrible accident in 2019, and it caused me to have balance issues and vision issues. And to this day, so that's why I have the vision therapy glasses on. So there you go. Then that's where the channel came into play, Visual Disturbance. So then it's been an interesting road, Rex. And man, I can't believe I'm here tonight. Have I said that so many times? I've said that a couple of times here, but one
Checks
of
in
my
the
favorite
mail,
topics,
Brian.
checks in the mail.
Mail,
But
man.
it's an honor. It's an honor and privilege. And yeah, let's just jump into this thing tonight, because I'm really looking forward to the 3i Atlas conversation and see what me and you can collaborate together and see what we can come up with. Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
Thank you. And so I actually thought that those were 3D glasses and you were doing it to be cool. So they're not 3D
It's not
glasses.
For entertainment. Not for entertainment.
Man.
No, sir. Not
I'm
for entertainment.
An asshole. Yeah. I'm sorry to think that. I thought they were pretty cool. I liked them. But anyway, so that's for your vision.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is it exactly? What does it do for your vision?
Okay. So anybody knows about blue light filter, and you have blue light screens, right? And then when I'm doing this ministry work or doing my Visual Disturbance channel, it can be very, let's just say, very rough when you have a condition with your visual input. So it's very hard, and I have a lot of migraines. Some days I'm just completely roasted. I can just lay in the bed for days. I mean, seriously. And it can be very intense with the vertigo and the visual distortions and what have you. It's been an interesting, let's just say, almost 7 years now. So I've been dealing with that. Yes, sir. So it's kind of made a different paradigm and dynamic to my reality. It's something I've had to literally just come to terms with, that you plateau to a certain level. You know, you wear your prism glasses, you wear your vision therapy glasses, nothing's improving. But as far as cognitive ability and all that, I just want to thank God I'm still got it all together, my left hemisphere, right hemisphere. But I really did. I had a pretty impactful accident. And it kind of, let's just say, whiplash, brain injury, all that good stuff. And I fought back to get to a certain level today to where I can actually do this. And I can't believe I'm here. So it's actually an honor. I could have died that day. So it's actually a privilege, like I keep saying during this program, a blessing to even be here at 2025. So bring on the 3i Atlas, you know what I'm saying, Rex? But yeah, that explains the 3D glasses, and I hope that's a crash course.
Cool. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, much appreciated, and so glad you're still here with us. So you got some lemons thrown at you. You're like, you know what? I'm going to make some lemonade. Let's go. I think that's really honorable, and hopefully there's some way they can figure out in the very near future how to get your eyes fixed to where they're just as good as they were before. But I love your attitude about it. And so we're going to jump into this, folks, and you can check out Visual Disturbance on YouTube. The link is in the video description box. Brian does some great YouTube videos, very open-minded, yet not so open that his brain falls out on the sidewalk. So you got to have an open mind for it to work, but it can't be too open. Otherwise, it's just going to fall right out. So anyway, we're going to jump into the latest footage here with 3i Atlas, because the latest footage is very, very interesting. I'm going to pull this up right now. If you missed the show earlier today, here we go. All right. Now, the European Space Agency, the most recent footage was released today. We were hoping for high-rise photos today or yesterday, actually, but nothing's came out yet. This is the only thing that we've got as of over the past few days. Now, the closest, let's read this real quick so people can get an idea. I had David Sarita on earlier today. He thinks that we're seeing structures on the object. I'm not necessarily convinced of that. He is, and that's totally cool, and I respect that. It's good to get different opinions, but when I'm looking at this, I'm wondering if some of the anomalies that we're seeing could potentially be like gassing or outgassing of some type. But let's see what it has to say here. So the two Mars orbiters had the closest view of the comet of all ESA spacecraft. During its closest approach to the red planet, October 3rd, the interstellar interloper was 30 billion kilometers away from them. Each spacecraft used its dedicated camera to watch the comet pass. Both cameras are designed to photograph the bright surface of Mars just a few hundred to a few thousand kilometers below. Scientists were unsure what to expect from observations of a relatively dim target so far away. The ExoMars TGO captured the series of images shown in the GIF below with its color and stereo surface imaging system. It's called the CASSIS. Comet 3i Atlas is a slightly fuzzy white dot moving downward near the center of the image. The dot is the center of the comet, comprising what they call icy, rocky nucleus and its surrounding area. So I'm going to zoom in on this. Check this out. So weird. This does not look like your typical comet at all. And when you zoom in on that, you'll notice that the way that it's pixeling out or whatever the image is doing, it doesn't have very many characteristics of your typical comet. What do you think about this, Brian?
Wow. The first thought is not too long ago, I think Richard Bandurek was talking about, I think he either works for Lockheed Martin or did at one period of time, and even had ties to NASA. If I'm not mistaken, he was talking about alien artifacts all over the face of the earth. And if you looked at them a certain way, or if it depend on the certain heritage or blood type, I mean, going always down these complex rabbit holes, right? That these artifacts would alter and shift, light would reflect, it would change into a stone, a rock, or whatever to cloak itself. It kind of sounds like Predator, right? And when I'm thinking about as above, so below, I hate to get down that rabbit hole, but if you go up and look in the sky and look at this imagery right here, what if it's the same? What if it's our telescopes and everything, and it's masking? It's showing like a mirage, a holographic technology, and you're like, in the light reflection back, it's interacting with our technology to where it's masking in behind it, and it's actually could be, and I hate to say it, we might not be looking at a meteorite comet, looking to something that has an intelligence to it, and that might be why you see it turn blue, green, white, orbish, a luminous colors, and it looks like it has an intelligence. And that's my take. If it's doing it on the face of the earth, if that can be verified and documented, that those things would Mr. Bandurek was talking about, if that is the thing, he said, I think it was millions to billions of artifacts. What if it's the same going on up into the airwaves? And what if it's masking some type of plasma field around it to where it's encapsulating it and it's working with, let's just have to say it, biological material? What if it's half living, whatever? What if it's something, a living entity or a living craft, kind of like off the film, if I'm not mistaken, what was it? Event Arising. What do you think? I mean, that's kind of where I'm at there, Rex. My first 2 cents.
So do you think this is artificial or sentient, not just a comet?
The reason why I'll say this, okay? So I remember reading about, I don't know, 10 years ago, give or take. I remember shamans. I know you talked about this many times here on this program about shamanism. And I remember reading about Halley's Comet. And I had this theory, and it's all speculation on my part, but I thought about the shamans. They was talking about the shamans could communicate with these comets, right? And cast them away from the earth. Well, if you look in psionics now, right, they're communicating with the Vimanas, the Ifas, the Orphanas, right? And they're calling forth these orbs, the Burus, I think it's the Bugosphere, what else they call the Dyson spheres, and they're communicating with these entities, so to speak. So what if it's a biological interface? What if we have something here of an AI sentient or something from ancient of days, of pre-Adamite, pre-Adamic, antediluvian world? What if it's to do with the Black Knight satellite? What if we have the same technology and we're looking at it and we're just like, hey, we're humans, like we don't know nothing, but we're sitting here, and as we speak, these organizations are closed. And it's kind of weird that we're left in the dark and we're not getting any imagery, and then we have these just excuse me, we have these individuals that are not even professional doing this. They're amateurs, and they're doing better clarity and better footage than, well, anybody else. They're all closed. So yeah, I to answer your question, there might be a biological entity, kind of sentient. I mean, all the above. I feel like it might be a little bit of everything. I think so on this. Mm-hmm.
Right on, man. No, I appreciate that. And I so want to believe, and I am going to say, in my scale, and where do I come up with my scale? Because I'm at the point now where I think everything's bullshit until proven otherwise, because it just, it seems to be a little bit more on par that way. But I think there's some great stories out there, and I'm looking for the truth. That's why I love doing Leak Project is, we're looking for the truth here, man. And it's funny how many conspiracies I started off with at the beginning that I've kind of gone a complete 180 now. But this is a really bizarre object. And if somebody, if we found out tomorrow that it was alien or sentient, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be like, okay. But if tomorrow comes and we see that it's not, I wouldn't be surprised either. So I'm going to be skeptical, but healthy about it. And I'm going to say it is weird. It does have a lot of very bizarre characteristics that haven't been observed before in comets. Now, the third interstellar object that we've observed, this is it allegedly. And the composition of nickel, of CO2, the size of this thing, the way that it's moving, there's a lot of percentages, especially if you go with Avi Loeb's theory, Professor Avi Loeb's theories, that there's there's definitely a possibility it's extraterrestrial. And David Sarita being on earlier today, he was bringing up some great dates and linking this thing in specific alignments with certain planets on dates that are religious dates that I definitely seem to be more than natural, more than just a fluke or more than just a coincidence. So, like I said, man, I totally want to believe. But when I'm looking at this footage now, and it almost looks like an ISS space station moving around, or a TIE fighter or something like that, I just personally think that that's probably got something to do with the technology itself that's filming the object.
Agreed.
If it was a much higher resolution image, it probably wouldn't look nearly as TIE fighterish as it does. But we're going to find out, hopefully. But it is so bizarre that we're not seeing more footage of this. And that's making me actually think about the alien invasion card. So, folks, there's actually a deck out there that came out in the early 90s. I've got the whole set. It's called the Illuminati card set. And I've got the NWO version of it. And one of the cards is the alien invasion card. And it's something that's been talked about for decades. This alien invasion, whether it's real or not. But there's going to be a fake alien invasion that's going to bring in the New World Order, and everybody's going to succumb to this Borg, and because the aliens. So, and it's a cool theory. It's definitely a possibility. But once they play that card, they play it, and they don't have it as much. I mean, once that card's played, it's done. So, what are your thoughts on that with the alien?
Well, first of all, if I keep thinking about propaganda, I think about subliminal messaging. It's a card game, and a lot of people don't know about it, but I mean, I've looked at it and actually referenced some of them myself in real life, and it's pretty telling, and it reminds me of stories that I've heard about when it comes into dark arts and dark magic and different things. There's so many rabbit holes we could go down, but staying on topic here alone, the Illuminati cards and this fake alien invasion. I mean, Rex, what if this thing? Let's just have fun here. The nickel and all these different elements. I heard not too long ago that it was encapsulated with 8.5 billion year old water resonating or illuming around it. And, it reminds me of a theory, and then it reminds me of a certain facility in China. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, it was called a Neutron or Neutrons. They was encapsulated in this huge facility, this orb-like substance. I don't even know I can't remember it's off the top of my head, but they had this liquid that would encapsulate it, and it kind of reminds me of what we're looking at here. And that facility was used for nuclear material, and as far as futuristic architect work, as far as bringing in the dystopian future of AI mechanisms. So when I think about this, though, could it be the nickel, the encapsulation of whatever material is encapsulated around? Could it be alive? And let me just say this: could it be that everything is not what it seems? You got Muamua, the cigar-like shape. We have evidence of that at Skinwalker Ranch in the 90s, a cigar-shaped craft kind of hovering and making an impression on the ground. You look through the documents with the three-letter agencies talking about the flying roll and talking about a cylinder-like object where there was entities coming from an interdimensional concept with the Lakas, the Talas, etc., talking about when you look into Hinduism mythology and the different levels, right? And when you look at all that and you collaborate all into one big panorama, and you look and you say, well, these entities was giant. They was contemplating on, setting down shop in our Earth, and you go down these big rabbit holes. But they talk about the vibratory rate, the light spectrum, what have you, but it looks like an interdimensional concept. So when I think about this particular object, and I think about the illuminating stance of it, what if it's encapsulated, and that's what meteors and everything have been like in the past? Because you never find anything, right? If there's a rock that falls, it's, they seal that thing off. It's all, most of the time it's, like, hey, here's the government, right? So what if there is this nickel and stuff, and then our astronomers and the professionals, even we have the experts, not experts, working around the clock to figure out what this thing is. But what if it's encapsulated and we just never figured it out before? Because if I'm not mistaken, there's been speculation online about a meteorite falling in, what was it, South America, if I'm not mistaken, and it was coming to life as soon as light hit it. So could we be looking at something here that is either just a comet, a meteorite, it's just nothing burger at the end of the day here in October, November, or could it really be something ancient and it's swinging around, and whatever it is causing these disruptions? Some people are losing their mind. I don't know about you out your way, Rex, but there's a lot of people that are not really sound-minded here lately, out here on the east side, and people are becoming tribalistic almost, or it's like pandemonium in the streets, and people are not acting like themselves, and they call it the geomagnetic storm, or they'll talk about, we're going through a black hole. Could it be this thing that we're looking at here causing this disruption? Who knows? But that's my long-winded answer to that, Rex. Yeah, man.
I appreciate that. The Bugosphere, there's so many videos on the alleged Bugosphere and news articles. I kind of think that's a big false news type situation. I think I don't buy it. I'm not buying it, man. Like 12,500 years old, and it looks like something out of an art gallery, like they put together an art class. But I could be wrong. I mean, once again, I want to believe, but that to me seems like a big game that they're playing on people. Do you think that thing's legit, the Bugosphere?
I've looked at it. Whenever I started looking at it, they at first, when this first started happening, I think it wasn't Denmark. There was another drone last year, an orb that hovered over, and then this Bugosphere came around, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's the Atlantean technology." I've heard everything under the sun. It's Atlantean technology, this ancient antediluvian world that it's a security system for the heavenly bodies, right? And I kept going back in my mind. I'm like, where are you getting this stuff from? And I agree with you. It looks like somebody could have took some forging and just made a technological so-called advanced shell and just rolling it down the hill and chasing it and filming it and making a reel after it. I mean, just clicks and likes, right? So the only thing that I think about, though, when I look at the Anunnaki, I look at these different documented accounts, sound frequency, harmonics, you have all these different energy sources. There is proven fact with certain types of artifacts that they resonate some type of sound. And this Bugosphere, until I see it fly away, and Chris Bledsoe, him speaking about the orbs talk to him and what have you, and these other psionic individuals going out into the desert and communicating with these entities. Until I see that with my own visual cortex, I can't validate it. You know what I mean? It looks like something that has just been forged out of a garage. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I have to be in full agreement with you on that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It'd be nice if we could actually get more information about some of these alleged alien technologies, but it's a charade for them. So anyway, this is what we're looking at here is an amateur telescope capturing 3i Atlas. I don't know what technology they're using, but you can go to i3atlas.com and pull this up on the left there. That's pretty interesting. Some people think you can explain 3i Atlas better with the electric universe hypothesis, which is a very interesting theory. And there's videos you can actually watch right now on that as well, folks, just so you know. But this is the information that we have so far. When 3i Atlas was getting close to Mars, they were projecting it was going about 200,000 miles an hour. So it is cruising. It is hauling. It's an interstellar comet. The reason it's called 3i is it's the third interstellar object that was discovered. It was discovered by the Atlas telescope. That's why it's called 3i Atlas. It was announced July 1st, and there's several comets in the skies right now, which is pretty cool. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the news that broke on this, I think it was 300,000 miles away from Earth that supposedly this comet was a near miss. That's what I think, if I'm not mistaken, on one of the comments. And I'm thinking, where'd that come from? This is what I just heard today. And then, based off, if you go down onto the, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and go down back onto the face of the Earth, I don't know if you've seen the congressional hearing not too long ago, Rex, where they showed the footage and talked about I think it was the Hellfire missile that hit this orb-like object. Well, then it split off after it hit it, and it split off, and it had three little orbs that was controlling the main one. So whatever that was, we're looking at something that's beyond our privy of understanding. And I'm thinking based off Tim Burchett's testimony, thinking that there's 5 to 6 ancient sites that are under the ocean floor. Bermuda Triangle is probably my number one on the list. And if you go to Lemuria in the the lost city of Atlantis out toward that area, I would even go toward the Eye of Sahara, because there's a breadth of just the information is overloaded with all this. If you look at star forts and different things out in the ocean, it just blow your mind. So I'm thinking, James Cameron had it right, when he's looking at the abyss and the encounters of the third kind and close encounters of the third kind. And you look at the abyss and the such depths of the ocean, right? And the Avatar films, he's so adamant about getting down in there and looking at all the ocean floor. So what is it? I mean, we're looking at something here that goes back to the stories of where you hear, like in Thoth and the Emerald Tablets and different water gods and Atlantis coming out of the water and teaching mankind for a peculiar amount of time, and then all of a sudden, boom, you go back into to the waters. I don't know. I've heard everything from any kind of either speculation, conspiracy, or factual document, and it's just very intriguing to me, Rex. Very intriguing.
It is very much so. And, it's kind of fun to go through. I sometimes have to, it's fun to look at the comments. And then other times I can get a little bit triggered when people are, sitting there, oh, they're just not going 200,000 miles an hour. Rex, you're wrong again. You're wrong. I'm so disappointed in you, Rex. I just showed you the data that showed it was 200,000 miles an hour when it was passing Mars. So there you go. But this is the... Man, go the triggering must not look at comments. Hey everybody, how you doing? I hope you're having a beautiful day today. We're looking at this is the orbit of Atlas right now, getting close to Jupiter. And Brian's making some great points. Like, Brian, you're definitely bringing up when we look at this object and the weird characteristics, and then the dates that it's getting close to certain planets, it seems very, very like, did our ancestors see this back in the past? Were they seeing the same thing? Is that why these religious dates are so important? But then somebody mentioned, Rex, they didn't have the same technology back then. Well, I would say if we go back Atlantis time, they most likely had that technology. I mean, if they could carve out megaliths the way that we see them, I would assume that they probably had that technology. But, publicly speaking, we don't know of any type of telescopes that were used 5,000, 7,000 years ago to observe some of these objects. So I don't know. I don't know if 3i Atlas has been here before, but the way that it links up to some of these planets and its location on religious dates, I find very fascinating. Like, it is trying to get our attention, potentially.
Agreed. And just to add this in here, the Atlas, if you just look up a simple, what's Atlas meaning the occult, okay? And it literally represents the principle of linking the spiritual with the material and the immense burden of maintaining the structure of reality. That's what Atlas means.
Wow.
I thought that was kind of jaw dropping.
Yeah.
Kind of terrifying,
Yeah.
So hello.
Hello. Well, speaking of hello, look at how close that gets to Mars. Did you see that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
oh my.
Wow. Let's go back here. It looks like that is really, really close in terms of space. Like, I'm sure it's still thousands and thousands of miles away, but it looks pretty close on that. So Avi Loeb's a very interesting professor. And let's talk about Avi for a minute. I've interviewed Avi before. He was really nice and respectful when I did an interview with him. And he does bring up the potential for a lot of these, like the first Oumuamua, then Borisov, and now 3i Atlas, the potential for them being alien probes or alien craft. He doesn't say without a doubt, but he does put some statistics out there that, say the chances of them going past Mars and Jupiter the way that it is like 0.05% chance, according to his math. And I don't know where I can't calculate that to say, oh yeah, I get it. But, that's his theory. And I think it's interesting. But this would be a right time to kind of dangle that carrot with this object and not release footage. Let's say it's just an asteroid. just a really freaking cool and bizarre asteroid or comet, I'm sorry. And would they want to release that footage? Or that, when I say would they, I'm referring to the MFers, the money funders, the people that seem to control the scenes behind the scenes. Would they want to release that out there, or would they want to kind of keep it from the public to make us think that it is an alien spacecraft more? What do you think?
Well, you're talking about distractions on every end. I mean, we got all this. We got from east to west, right? East Coast, West Coast. We got insanity going on, chaos, and it's just a perfect storm. It's the perfect storm. You know, I had this thought here, Rex. I had this thought, and I've written it down today too. Speaking of, have you seen some? You know, we got to watch what we say here. Respect the YouTube platform, but there's so many things out there when you look at the premise of like what this, you know, spiritual walk is and how they're, you know, we see blood and death, and there's always certain things that it just keeps hyping up, right? We see subliminal messaging, we see repetitive, you know, MK, you know what I'm saying, and frames per second, and we can't, which is so much overflow. So what if, you know, we have things going on in the East, we have other things going on that is hurting us in some shape or form in our country, right? And there's violence. What if this frequency, you know, that are, you know, people are not privy to, that it might be just the elites have done this in other times, like you're talking about. You know, you look into the Phoenicians, you look in these different types of civilizations about them going in and hiding themselves in the mountains, the dens, you know, and that's even biblical references. And you go and look at the underground facilities and all these bunkers they've been building. And Rex, I've been seeing a lot of people mysteriously just pass away. I've seen there's a lot of high stature celebrities just all of a sudden they're sick, they're dead, you know, they're passing away. And there's a lot of people right now. What if they're going to the bunkers, everything's shut down? Here we are sitting around like a guinea pig waiting for this great implosion. You know, is it a cataclysm? What is it? But it's just, I've been kind of keeping tabs on that. There's been a lot of high stature folks just vanished from our earth here. And, you know, could it be that they are building these bunkers and getting ready? You know, we've been talking about bunkers, you know, for what, 15 years on YouTube, whatever it is. And, you know, and so could it be that this could be causing something to do with flooding? Could it cause earthquakes in diverse places? What are we looking here for real? I mean, I agree, Rex, it could totally well be something set up to where the masses are just bamboozled into believing the narrative. What is it? I mean, really?
That's another thing about space is we have to go on what we're told. I mean, we have amateur astronomers. I have a nice telescope. You know, I mean, I can see the planets. I can see the scar on Mars. I can see inside of craters on the moon pretty good. Beautiful rings of Saturn and Jupiter. But when it comes to certain objects like 3i Atlas, really we have to go on what we're being told, those that have the technology. And at least in the States, yeah, there's universities that are working with governing bodies like NASA and JPL and other Department of Defense organizations to come up with or to, you know, to put satellites in Mars. Because like the high-rise satellite images of Mars are incredible. They're fascinating. But there's also a lot of behind the scenes tape that goes on, a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So Cydonia, we should have incredible footage of Cydonia, the region of Cydonia where the 1976 Viking orbiter picked up the face and the pyramids. And I'm 99.9% that is absolutely a previous civilization. It looks so much like the pyramids in Egypt, and it reminds me so much of the pharaohs in Egypt and some of the these megaliths. I think that that's where the original dynasties came from, is Mars. I think Mars got blown to hell. They jumped ship, they came to Earth, and they colonized and they kind of took over. So now when I hear about an alien invasion, I don't think that there is. It already happened, folks. The alien invasion's already here. Look in the mirror. You're an alien. We're the only ones that need clothes and shoes. And, you know what I mean? Like we're not growing up in the wild naked like animals do. We're humans. We're so different. And how did we get here? Like, why are we the way that we are? That's my theory, that we actually, or our ancestors, certain progenitors were on Mars before here. So alien invasion, I think it already happened.
So what's your take on, since we're kind of, I don't want to get off the subject too high here on this, off the Three Eye Atlas, but I've heard you talk about many subjects on here on the channel. And have you ever thought about, let's just say heliocentric biblical cosmology?
Uh-oh.
No.
You're breaking up.
Oh, am I breaking up? Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was just asking, have you ever heard of, there's always this big debate about heliocentric or, biblical cosmology, what that would be, firmament, and get into all that. And I know that's not where we want to go down tonight. But the thing is, I keep thinking about this. I'm thinking about, the Mars aspect of it, traveling through Mars. Is it, are we looking at a, quantum entanglement and all that is still a thing, right? That's a huge thing in as far as the school systems of today. They've been teaching it. I couldn't believe it. I never got taught quantum physics or quantum entanglement. I had to go research it myself. And when you're talking about, I think about a movie. You remember John Carter?
Oh yeah.
When he transitions to that, and they had this medallion that he goes into the tomb, and his nephew watches his body. It's like he's astro, projecting or cloning or, doppelganger kind of thing. And then you have that red and blue paradigm. Could it be something like that? Because, you have spiritual applications, certain things that they're talking about, military applications where they can actually astro project or take their essence and jump into another shell, so to speak. We got to watch what we say. But when I'm thinking about all this and this question and how we're taking this broadcast, I'm thinking, two things: heliocentric, which we're showing here. We're looking at the orbiting of the Earth and the Mars and the trajectory of the object. And then my mind, I have to go this way because I've talked about it a lot and taught it a lot too. When you look into the flat earthers, and you have all these other principles that you have to take in consideration: the ice wall, Admiral Byrd account. We look into different things of like inversion. I've heard people even making claims that when you're up a certain altitude and all of a sudden you can just invert and go to, I've heard all kinds of crazy ideas, right? In speculation. But what if there's something here that we're missing, Rex? So, I mean, what if this is something just now circling? It's just showed itself. What if it's been doing this for a long period of time? It's just now glowing. I mean, there's so many different things we could look at here. We're getting close to Mars. You're saying that you think we originally came from Mars. I'll have to take a deep dive in that. I've never actually researched the premise of that. And I know the Adam and Eve story. And then I know the biblical narrative very well. And I really do I'm open-mindedness, right? That's why we're coming here to collab here. But I really do think there could be something to a level on the fact that the Mars and the Earth connection, there's definitely something there when it comes to cosmological stance. Definitely. And but yeah, I didn't take much time from you. I just want to kind of see kind of where we're playing here in this, because this is very interesting conversation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I don't think we all came from Mars, actually. I think that there's the MFers, the money funders, like the certain bloodlines that probably control the world. At least that's for people that do the research. You've all heard of it, folks. You know what I'm talking about. There's, I think, a very strong possibility that especially the ancient pharaohs and the ancient builders and some of these megaliths that are available that we're told with modern archaeologists that they used a chisel and slaves to come up with some of these intricate designs and temples. And like, just go to India or Cambodia or Angkor Wat. I mean, Egypt is one of hundreds of sites you can go to where there is no way that those could have been built by primitive means the way that they were. It's just way above and beyond. Now, that doesn't mean that extraterrestrials built them. It could have been a highly advanced human civilization in the past and has nothing to do with extraterrestrials. But with the research that I've done and certain books, for example, the Book of Enoch, I think describes very in religious fashion the 200, what they refer to, and folks, I wouldn't call them fallen angels because I don't think they like that, but they're referred to as fallen angels, the 200, and they give people certain like theater and makeup and art and war and there's a multitude and fire and different objects and technologies. I think they actually came from Mars, and the people that wrote about them, at least years later, talked about them in a religious sense and tried to come up with good and evil and paint them as being evil. But I don't think that they necessarily were evil. Now, were there people within the 200 that could be? Possibly, but look at humanity. You know, people are so, oh, aliens are demons, all aliens are demons. And I'm like, well, they probably think that about humans. I'm just, you know, if they're out there, I'm just saying there's probably good and bad and everything. But the alien invasion card, once they play that, I don't know if they'll be able to play it again unless they just want to keep playing fake alien invasion. But they can almost pull it. Like they can get professors and the news and the media to talk about a spacecraft or a comet that could potentially be a spacecraft, and people are going to fall. You know, they're going to be like, yeah, without having to actually pull the card completely, because we have to go on what they tell us, because we don't have these technologies that they have at NASA and JPL. We don't have satellites in space. We have telescopes and mathematicians.
So what's your take? This will get the conversation started really on fire here. What's your take on, because I've been thinking about a lot of things, you know, when you look into the ancient antediluvian world, you look at the Nephilim, you look at the Raphaim, you look at all the different, like you said, Egypt, different archaeology sites, go Betli Tepe, you have it. And oh man, Rex, when I think about this, I think about the technology that mankind has suppressed. You talk about 0-point energy. We go down the rabbit holes on all these applications. But some of these documents you can find freely. I found a document not too long ago where you can literally, the technology had the ability to walk through walls. Okay, so let's just hang on there for a minute. So if there's military or some type of black ops budget program, whatever, that has the ability to vibratory rate through the walls, and you're talking about interdimensional travel. I mean, literally, like to the peripheral of the eye, the light spectrum, you won't be able to catch it, right? And if that's happening, if they have that technology, it makes me think about the Pangonian giant story. Have you ever heard about the Pangonian giant story, where the giants like this? He see the Spaniard coming on the boat, and I think it's the 1400s, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the 1200s. And he's like, oh, he can't communicate. He's communicating with hand gestures, and he touches his head. He's like, hey, you coming from above? And the Spaniard is like, no, we come from the oceans. And he's like, no, you come from up above. And he was looking at his attire, and he was relating in the terms of saying it looks different. His clothing was so much different than what he's accustomed to. So here's a take. Here's a take. This is totally conspiracy, totally speculative, and totally off the rails when it comes to Bluegrass State, Kentucky boy here. But what if we have a breakaway civilization? I know you know what I'm very well what you've talked about many times here on the channel. What if we have a breakaway civilization? There's been humans that went through these cataclysms. You know, we refer to elite bunkers, all that, and there's been these bunkers throughout time where people build back up, come back up on the soil, and then voila, you have ancient technology, whatever you want to call it, antediluvian, Atlantean, and they've advanced and re-engineered it over time and gotten really crafty at it. What if it's a breakaway civilization on top of it there, Rex?
That'd be cool. That would be so cool. I'd say, tell us what happened 5,000 years ago. Tell us what happened before the Younger Dryas event. How many libraries do you have access to that we don't? That would be fascinating. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the UAPs and the UFOs and the alleged alien phenomena that people have either experienced or seen or heard about or researched. Let me put it to you this way. Like, I've got very good friends and family that have had experiences, what people refer to as the Greys, where they show up like interdimensionally in your room, freak the hell out of you. You can't move, you can't do anything. And then just imagine the most frightening experience that you can't get out of. You don't know necessarily where you are, what's going on, the emotions. They don't really have any emotions. It's like they're almost robotic, but they're not, but they're physical. And then, man, I became friends with the submariner. I hope he's doing okay, because last I heard he was having some opportunities. Medically discharged submarine veteran, and he gave me all his paperwork, and his testimonies are almost identical to people that I know personally that have never met him. Some in the military, some out of the military. But a lot of these people have very high level positions in the military, working on aerospace or secret nuclear missile technologies or weapon systems. He was a submariner, and he felt the safest when he was on the submarine, because that was the only place that he was never abducted. They would take him in the barracks, they would take him at home, they would take him in hotels, but in the submarine, they never took him. And those, whatever they are, they very well could be from a breakaway civilization. I don't buy they're from Zeta Reticuli. I think that is the biggest piece of disinformation that ever came. One of the big pieces of disinformation that came out when a lot of people started having these experiences, like in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, especially. And then the Betty and Barney Hill case, they said that they were taken in a ship, and then they were shown this star system and the Zeta Reticuli, and the modern astronomers here didn't know about that area yet, so that it's got to be true. So they've got to be from Zeta Reticuli. They could be, but I think that is absolutely disinformation. I think they're a lot closer to here than out there, and that's why they care so much about what's going on here versus out there. But that's my theory on the breakaway civilization stuff.
Wow, touche. I have a lot to say about that. And your friend that was abducted in not the submarine, but everywhere else but the submarine,
Mm-hmm.
I had this thought: water. What if the water is the barrier? And then what if that's the whole scheme of it all?
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's a great question. I had thought because he was moving, if you're on a submarine, I think you're constantly moving. But the water theory, that's a great theory. And so if you're in a moving submarine and you're constantly moving underwater, if they take you, then they'd have to put you back while you're moving. And that might cause some problems if they're doing this interdimensional, pulling you out of a wall, pulling you through walls, and then putting you back into a room through walls. Like, dude, could you imagine, seriously, like you wake up and you got sleep paralysis and there's these grays on each side of you and they're like doing weird stuff to you and you can't really do anything but look, and you can't even scream, and you want to scream so bad, but you can't. Could you imagine waking up to that on a regular basis and having to actually go to work and deal with reality like it wasn't going on?
So you just made me think. I mean, what if that's happened with the Philadelphia experiment? What if it was a project went bad and it was a abduction, and then all of a sudden people get fused inside the ship because they messed up? Think about. I mean, we could go down some crazy rabbit holes. But just to answer your question, if I see grays running around in my neck of the woods, man, I'd be like, "Save me, Jesus!" You know what I'm saying? But seriously, but on the android hypothesis, and you have the gray alien abductions. I remember very clearly not too long ago. It's kind of went viral online. The tribal leader of, I think it was Brazil, there was a gentleman that had him on a podcast, his wife on there. They had this elaborate, tribal type of attire. And the gentleman asked him and showed him a picture of a gray. And the gentleman goes, Manakuwabu, Manakuwabu. And that's the best I could do with a Kentucky accent. But he said Manakuwabu. And he said, those who take you to the inner earth, like inside the earth. And he was referring to Sheol, like Sheol, right? So if you look this up in Navajo and out to your all's way, you know what I'm talking about, the ant people, right? So is there some kind of weird collaboration of all this going on, and they're telling us about the ant people? What's going on, Rex? So if the Brazilian folks are still saying it, and saying that he even said that they went to war with them, they would take their women, like the whole narrative of the sons of God made with the daughters of men, took wives as they chose, the daughters of men, the children, everything, all the stories of the Nephilim, the giants, they took the women and children for technology. What if it's this, what the Manakuwabu commentary from this Brazilian tribal leader, and he's like, the ones that take us to inner earth. What's going on there, Rex? I mean, we could literally be looking at an ancient antediluvian world, but I think it's what we talked about off air the other day. I think mankind got into a certain state and built certain tech and building robots and mechanisms, and then they transcend in a wrong way and get caught up into this synthetic android robot body. Maybe this is the Atlanteans and they're using interdimensional concept, or they could be demons and angels and jinn and everything else, according to Dylan Bolin. And I have studied it a lot. There's demons and angels, etc. But I think there's another parties too. We have extraterrestrials. We have hybridization programs. We got a lot of it. I mean, this is a big a big pool of water. There's a big ocean, and we're trying to find a needle in a haystack. I guess that's what James Cameron's getting ahead of us, my friend. But yeah, it's just a lot of different aspects and speculation, but there's a lot of key points here. Us both putting things together, coming together with two different mindsets here. But it's so intriguing and fascinating to me. It is just it's truly fascinating topic. The Great Decree in 1964, if my memory serves me correct. This is just so fascinating on how far we got. And if you just seen the news headliner not too long ago, I think it was a day or two ago. If I can pull that up real quick, I don't have to share it or anything, but
sure. No,
there was in a New York Post, alien DNA found inside humans. It was inserted into our genes, and it says bonkers. New study claims. That was dated yesterday at 10 a.m. October the 6th, 2025. So there's all this stir online right now. So like you said earlier, we have these distractions, things coming in data east, west, south, north, east, whatever, and we're getting literally turned into some direction that is focusing on this comet, whatever it is, and we're all over here looking at this while we could be completely distracted and something could be coming upon the earth that causes destruction. Who knows? Or it could just be a meteorite throwing nickel and giving us some more nickel depositories here on the earth. I don't know, but it is very intriguing. They're very intriguing. But yeah, the whole gray concept, Rex. Oh man, whoo! I mean, I didn't know he was going to go there.
Hey, I mean, we might as well, because we're talking about the alien invasion and the fake alien invasion, and if there's ever going to be a fake alien invasion, and it's definitely fun to talk about, folks. We'll just call this a live action role play for entertainment purposes. We're obviously speculating a lot here, but what I do see, and what I have been really good at for a long time, I've been really good at this for a long time, is seeing how people react to the media. And seeing how people, like, I already know what people are going to do before they do it when I come out with a podcast or a title, or if I see something in the news. I have a good understanding of how people are going to react to it. And it's just something I've been good at for a long time. And when that event happened with Charlie Kirk, I knew that was going to take over social media. And it did right away. It just completely took over social media. And I'm not going to go down those rabbit holes, because there's a million rabbit holes that people have gone down there. Plenty of other people have, wow. Yeah, I've heard just about every theory on that. But what is fascinating is the human nature. I'm fascinated by it. And once again, the whole ET phenomenon, I want to believe. I've had my own experiences. I don't know what the heck I saw when I was a toddler in my crib, but they weren't people. And there were 3 of them, and they were looking at me, and I was looking at them. And I get emotional every time I think about it. I brought it up before. But so I want to believe more than anybody. But I've realized throughout this 10 years of Leak Project thus far that a lot of the information out there on the ET phenomena is so scripted and so far off from reality that I've had to kind of bring some checks and balances back into this. I definitely think there's real ETs out there, real demons. I mean, I've had some weird stuff happen to me, man. I used to study the occult, and I had a book, The 72 Lesser Keys of Solomon, that I got on eBay, and it was a used copy of an ancient or not an ancient grimoire. It's from the 1913. Mathers and S.R. Mathers and Aleister Crowley had put it together, but that was a used grimoire. And I'll tell you what, folks, do not buy a used grimoire on eBay, even if you think you're getting a good deal, because I don't know what it was used for, but that energy was dark, man. I got that in the house, and the house we were already living in was haunted already. So the energy was already pretty dark. And then it got even just worse. And I had that book for a few weeks, and Kristen never even knew about it. I never told my wife about it. And then I got rid of it because I could feel it. And I was like, I got to get rid of this. So I gave it away. The day that I gave it away, Kristen comes home and she goes, "Doesn't it just feel lighter in here?" Like, she could feel it. I was like, yeah, well, by the way, so the occult, the other side, there's a lot of stuff out there, folks. So when I refer to the occult, I'm just referring to the unknown, the mysterious, but there's a lot of stuff out there that people might link as alien, which could be some type of like trickster energy as well.
Do you have a question, if you feel comfortable to answer it? Do you have Native American heritage?
No, I mean, well, yes, but I don't know enough about it. I only found out because I asked my grandma before she passed, because I had always felt that I had like this Native connection. And she's like, oh yeah, by the way, your great grandma was a medicine woman, and she saved your great grandpa's life because he had pneumonia and he was going to die. And then she met him, and then she did something, and then the next day he was okay, and then they ended up, falling in love. But see, my family being LDS, like they kept track of all the genealogy, and I'm not LDS, but a lot of my family's Mormon and LDS, and they kept track of the genealogy big time, but they didn't keep track of that. So anytime I bring up, because I've got a lot of friends that are Native, like some of my best friends are Native, like Shondell, I think's in the chat right now. He's awesome. He's Navajo. He's a stud. And I feel kind of like a poser sometimes, because I'm like, yeah, well, my great grandma was a Native shaman medicine woman princess. And they're like, yeah, Rex, come on, dude. Every white guy says that. You know what I mean? So anyway, it's true story. But yeah, you've got Native DNA, don't you?
Correct. Yeah, correct. And I didn't answer your question about the whole gen thing. Ancestral DNA, that's where it is. When I was just curious, because I was thinking about everything I've read about Native American culture. You have so many different things as far as west to east. You hear about these entities showing up at people's homes and different things. Even when it comes to the cryptic creatures, you hear this. So it's like, it's just all folklore, but then your testimony, you've seen it, you can observe it, you're emotional by the three entities, when you was a child. What's going on here? Like, really, what's going on? And I think it's either interdimensional, old ancient black op projects, whatever you want to call it. But I think also there's a demonic aspect to it. But I would say that there is a wide variety of things. Yeah, I know that, a lot of people are in different walks, spiritually speaking, what have you. But I hear a lot of, in the Christianity concept, that's where I come from. I shouldn't say concept, but Christianity itself, I come from that walk. You hear about people saying, I declare in Jesus' name, depart from me, get away from me. And these things cleave, they run, they run away. They're not cleaving no more to the individual. So, you think about that, you think about different other mechanisms, when it comes to the seraphim, the cherubim, when it comes to relation to the book of Enoch, the Orphana, and, you're looking into the biblical stance. There's so many things through all these civilizations that tie back to this phenomenon in some shape or form or fashion. And to me, when I think like what you're describing, I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, or visit down this rabbit hole, but maybe your friend Sean in the chat, but the Nunnehi that are immortal, they live forever, they live anywhere. And when you look at the Nunnehi and you think about, they can shapeshift, they can turn into humans, they can turn into any kind of object or whatever you want to, whatever that comes to the principle of their mind. The Nunnehi are very intriguing to me. So they're very prominent in certain areas here in my area, not Oklahoma, I think in Tennessee, Alabama, this whole Appalachian area, mountain range, I think in North Carolina. There's so many things about the Nunnehi. So what if we have, and the Nunnehi also have been claimed that they used to be human. No joke. It's like you hear the whole story about the biblical stance about the embodied spirits. It's like they become an embodied spirits where they can't go to hell or heaven. I've even heard that there's good Nunnehi and there's bad Nunnehi, just like the good angels and the bad angels. So could we have a multi-dimensional hypothesis, a whole dimensional interaction with humanity plus all these other mechanisms? More than likely, absolutely yes. And it just either the blood types to family tree lines or what have you. My thing is I'm so upset. Well, I shouldn't say obsessed, but I'm obsessed with finding architecture of like archaeology with Indian mounds, learning about different types of tribes in the local area around here in Kentucky, right? And you look at the cosmological stance, you see where the sun is placed, where these villages was built around the sun, right? And you look at how the water streams and the bodies of water around it, and then you look at these stories of the large tibula. You see these large giants being referenced, excavations, Renaissance missions, and you have all the receipts, right? And then the people just go about their merry way. And I take it very personal because these Native American lands should be reserved, but they're not here out in the eastern sides of, especially this state of Kentucky. They're, let's just say, manipulated and all of a sudden excavated and then put a residential area up or commercial buildings. That's what's happening here. But not too far to go down the rabbit hole, but I think it's just a mixed bag of everything. And I think based off, I had a gentleman on not too long ago that I interviewed, and he's done a lot of interesting information about the first three presidents. Well, George Washington, the Adams, and all that. Well, the stories was that they would see, like, a sailor man would be and witness these phenomenon, right? And these orbs would come in the sky and literally make turtles. So whatever the interaction was between the human, the sailor, this was communication in the star systems or whatever these orbs was. It's like, hey, you're a sailor man. You hunt, you're fishing, or you're around, just give them, I guess, the reassurance they're friendly kind of communication, right? It's like Close Encounters of the Third Kind kind of feel, right? So when I think about that, and I think about the story in the first three presidents where the giant cube come down and crashing down, there's so many mechanisms. It's almost like that it's interacting with your mind, almost like the Chris Bledsoe I referred to earlier. He's even come to those realizations, conclusions, speculative mindset, but he's a free thinker like us. But what I'm saying is what if it's like a communication, and some of these things are literally possessed and what have you, and some of them are good, right? And then we're interacting with as far as the humanity stance, right? So what if it's the same principle with the 3-eye atlas? And then why is everybody wanting us? They're shutting everything off, getting us all hyped up, and everybody's all charged, and we're all like focusing on this point of time, right? And we can go back to other representations of that throughout, the last 100 years. And I know there's certain things I can't say on here, but there's certain things that's happened in our history. Do you remember where you was? You'll hear those terminologies, right? And you all know where we're at. It's the same thing now. Do you remember where you was in October 2025 when the great reveal, whatever it is, right? So I'm thinking there's interactions of some shape or form. It depends on the individual. I think it's all individual. You see stories of they've been abducted, or, there's burns on their face. It's been like really traumatizing experience. So could it be literally, what you're talking about, evil and good? And there's this whole thing that's wrapped up into who you really are. And these things are, like you referred to earlier. I know you didn't call them watchers or angels, I think, but like they're watching, observing. What if? That's just it's just an input on there. What do you think, Rex? I kind of went long-winded there, but what do you think?
About which part? Because
about the interaction. No, about the interaction of like the individual, like wherever you're at. If you're a sailor, indicating, if you spot them and they start showing a turtle back in the day. I couldn't believe that's what the gentleman was telling me. And this is documented proof about between the first three presidents and the witnesses seen this. So it's an interaction with the human. So that's blowing my mind. That's a mind blower. Yeah.
We see about 0.01% of the electromagnetic light spectrum, and then our brain filters out about 50% of that. So these entities potentially could be right in front of us and we wouldn't even know it. And if we were at a certain level of consciousness, maybe they make themselves known. Maybe they make themselves known through symbols or through coincidence that's more than coincidence. Like that's got to, the synchronicities are so abundant. And I know a lot of people that watch Leak Project and probably watch Visual Disturbance as well, and other shows have these synchronicities almost daily. And it seems like that's the universe talking to you without using words, but using symbols and energies and whatever else. So, and when people have had, like I heard about George Washington having an encounter that he documented that people speculate was with Greys or something like the Greys. And I wouldn't be surprised. And that's another thing that I would say, if planet Earth was occupied by an extraterrestrial force that was able to get here from another planet, they would obviously have some very high level technologies. Depending on where the Earth was at the time, it would be a lot easier for them to take over the world, to build empires and to colonize. And then maybe they want to go do it to another planet. So how do they do that? Well, they need to build, they need to have certain families to kind of keep things in order here. So I could absolutely, with the way things run on a scale of like a pyramid scale, like it seems to, there's these these invisible strings that continue to go up this pyramid. And we've heard some of the names, like a lot of the big names. The banking families and the big oil families and some of these big dynasties. And allegedly there's 13 bloodlines that rule the world. Well, who put them in power? And are they the hybrids that are referred to? When I say hybrids, I'm not necessarily talking like an extraterrestrial alien hybrid, but a highly advanced civilization that's human-like, but far advanced, far larger, far stronger. They have the ability to use 6 senses. Like, what if that's one of the biggest secrets? One of the biggest, we were at one point far more in tune with our 6th sense. So we could communicate without talking. We could read people's minds almost. And then now it's, most people have lost that sense. They'll get the feeling, but they can't literally read people's minds. There probably are some people that can. I mean, I've had a couple of times where I literally read somebody's mind like they were talking, and it freaked them out, but it doesn't happen very often, and it hasn't happened in a very long time. But that 6th sense, if we all had access to our 6th sense, like, we would know if somebody in front of us was lying to us. We would know. Could you imagine how many industries would lose power if we could read people's minds? Could you imagine how different politics would be? And CEOs and these big giant companies that, oh man, things would be so different. And what if we get close to that point, but then the dungeon masters, the money funders, realize that we're getting close to that point. So they have to start a war, or they have to come up with some type of something to get people to go down that rabbit hole and to not focus on their true abilities. Constantly keep people in fear, constantly keep that carrot at the end of the stick. Don't ever give anybody a real answer. Give people 3 or 4 different possibilities and claim those possibilities are the answers, so you confuse the hell out of people. You manipulate people through the social media, the mainstream memes, and all the other networks. And I don't know. So I think that we are getting really close. We get real close to that epoch where we're going to just see everything far greater than what we do. And then boom, well, there's been a war. We are now at war. There's weapons of mass destruction. Welcome to the Borg. We got your money. You take a thorough leak and love it.
It reminds me too, not to get too humorous there. I don't want to go on a big rabbit trail on this one, but there's just so much to really ponder on what you just said and the way it was deployed. I have so many thoughts and so many different directions with it. It's like, could we have already gotten to a certain point of advancements, like I referred to earlier, reiterate the breakaway civilization? Could everything be like the Truman Show, like a monitor? Hey, the Truman Show's here. Hey, Rex and Brian are together. Let's make fun of them, that kind of thing. Right. And they haven't found the doorway. And it reminds me of like binary code, quantum physics, when you look into that weird like reality of all that, and you think about where we're really headed as far as humanity. And when you're talking about mechanisms, about seeing in the future, if you had the capability of doing that, the first thought that comes to my mind is the Stargate project and the Monroe Institute and the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere, and you're trying to literally sync them together, right? You can go look it up. It's documented. And you look at all the military, applications that was applied to that. You can look at all those programs, telekinesis, spoons, your spoons, I think that was bending the spoons, etc., doing all these mechanisms. And I've seen people speculate, people are laughing online, but they're saying that I can bend this spoon, and it's all for entertainment purposes only, right? But, there is people that have been documented that can move things with their mind or what have you. So what if, let's just have fun here, what if ever periodically over throughout in the world of we know it, and we go through these mini cataclysms, right? And there's these people that take these ancient tech and then re-engineer it, make everybody feel like they're dumb down the society, and only selectively a few, and do these, well, back then, barbaric ways. But all these folks had abilities, and that's why he's researching and trying to collect all that data. And then all of a sudden you have technological advancements of computers and everything after the 1900s. It starts digging up and taking up full speed. And here we are in 2025, and we can communicate through these, the screens, get everything instantaneously. And, when you look at the teletapes and everything like that, they're talking about, autism and everything. There's this relationship where they can like communicate with their thoughts. It's insane, right? So all this stuff is coming out. So if we have the ability to do that, the question is, why is these entities so like tentatively in our mess, right, in our backyard? Like, why are they trying to disrupt our, reality or whatever? Why are they here? That's the question. Why? What is this ancient adversary from way back? Why is it so tied dearly to humanity? And that's a question for you, Rex. What's your take on that? What do you think?
I think that there's a few possible scenarios. One is, I think that there are people on this planet, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that are in positions of power to keep populations in a fight or flight mode because they're a lot easier to control. I think that potentially humanity is so powerful and we're so amazing that if we truly had access to all of our abilities that are dormant in many of us, like, dude, watch out. There's so the divinity within, man, the God spark. And maybe there's things that can somehow feed off of it, but maybe their job is just more so to keep people in line so that they don't evolve too much. Because if they did, it would be like a society of God men and God women, not like divine creator of the universe, but extremely powerful and not able to control. Like once the chains, once we break the chains, they're not putting them back on. So they got to continue to find ways to put these chains on, whether it's through your, face hook app on your phone, or, the algorithms that have you in there for like these 10-second mindsets where you're thinking for 10 seconds and then you're getting that extra shot of dopamine every time you scroll every 10 seconds. And then you turn on the news and it's fear, 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 fear. So, I think our original language, and if you biblical scriptures, even if you go back and read some of the older scriptures before the ones that most people have access to, like ancient Sumer and ancient Babylon, describe the Tower of Babel and when it fell, and then all these languages, these break-offs of languages. What if we all spoke the same language at one time, and that was telepathy? Could you? And that would make so much more sense. And then imagine this. So now we don't have telepathy anymore. Sure, we all, like most of us, speak English in America, but let's you take anybody that speaks English, you could still have confusion because you might have a completely different understanding or definition of a specific word that's referenced, or maybe somebody has a different idea in their mind when they're talking to you. You're using the same words, but you have different ideas of what the words mean. No wonder the world's so compartmentalized. Just change the language. That's all you got to do. Change the language. Start. Go. We'll be back in 6,000 years. You'll probably have 5,000 or 6,000 wars during that time. You'll have corporations that pillage the earth. You'll make up a bunch of fake gods, and then we'll come back, and then, yep, we'll just ruffle the feathers a little bit. Then we'll leave again. We'll gather all of our stuff. It's like whatever it is that's running the show is almost doing it for entertainment. I think sometimes they're doing it for entertainment and they're doing it for knowledge. What if a lot of stuff that we are creating and inventing and our technologies, they'll give us a little bit of their technology, but then we'll come up with something completely different, completely new ideas. UFOs now, or let me repeat that. UFOs from the 40s look like toys, look like G.I. Joe toys today. UFOs from the 40s look like G.I. Joe toys today. Think about that. What the hell does that mean? Unless they were ours. And they weren't really space aliens, but they were ours. And like, look, we got these space aliens, man. They're all space aliens. They all have flying saucers. What happened to all the flying saucers? It's all orbs now or Tic Tacs.
Did
the aliens evolve or did humans evolve and we're still blaming aliens? Think about that.
Yeah. Or it could be this. I've said this not too, well, actually quite a bit of times here in the last several shows I've done in the past here. What if it's this, Rex? What if it's, we have all the ability. We've just been literally subducted and seduced into getting in line, and we're in this artificial prison, you know, the technology. But what if we triumph it? What if we're like you said, if we really truly knew who he was, what could we do with it? And what if it's just we've been subliminally, like we was talking about earlier with him, imagery and just taught certain things to literally just submerge into this so-called abyss where you don't even know if you're truly human or whatever, and you question everything, but all the whole entire time you had everything. You've had everything that you could navigate around into this realm, and it's just the opposite effect. What if that? What if the powers that be are just putting these mechanisms in to just dumb us down like cattle and make us not literally just see the path, like of understanding as far as just walking around and being a human? What if that's a crazy idea, but what's your take? I mean, that's the way I can think about it. What if we have all the ability right now, Rex? We're just so secluded and shut off in our brains that we can't function on that level. What if?
I think we do. I think we do. You're bringing up the Stargate project, the Monroe Institute. I mean, man, when I used to study I was reading grimoires, I was reading books on the occult, I was studying astrotheology, astrology, astronomy. I was studying the Monroe Institute. I was doing like these subliminal messages that I would have come on the screen for like a half second. I'm doing all the research. I'm listening to the binaural beats. I'm doing all this kind of stuff. And when I was doing all that, I was starting to kind of expand a little bit my consciousness. That's when I started having out of body experiences more. And I picked up a book called 90-Day Guide to Astral Projection by Robert. No, this was by, I don't remember. It was by 90-Day Guide to Astral Projection. Look it up, folks. It's a great read. It'll take you step by step how to literally have out of body experiences. And you have to do these exercises, and you have to repeat words and sentences when you wake up and when you go to sleep. And when you get good at it, you can actually, you'll like ping your consciousness off of a wall, as an example. So you'll be in bed, you'll be laying in bed, and you'll focus your energy back and forth off of a wall until you can actually start feeling it. And then you can learn different techniques to like pull yourself out of the body, astrally speaking. And once you start to feel like the bed shaking, or like this, like you actually feel like there's like a cat on your bed or something scratching at itself, or something on the bed's moving. And that's right before you pop out of your body typically. But I got pretty good at that, man. And when I was doing those, all of those different mind tricks and all the subliminal stuff and the binaural beats and such, I kind of started to question, like, if I want to, can I tap into something that I'm not supposed to? And one time I took some fungus, some mushrooms, and and I almost got to that point, man. I was almost there. Like anything I wanted to know, I could know it. And then all of a sudden, Kristen started having this like really bad experience. She's like, "Oh my gosh!" She's like throwing up in the bathroom, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" And then all of a sudden, we heard this. I'm telling you, man, I swear we heard this demon is like, "Roar!" And it freaked us the hell out. So I was almost there. And then like something just, anyway, it was a bad trip.
Wow.
Folks. I don't do that anymore. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm scared. I'm scared of
those
things.
Please don't do that again. Don't do it again, Rex.
It was bad.
But oh man, that just got my gears turning. So have you ever heard of, I know you've heard of H.P. Lovecraft, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I have a friend of mine that did an awesome study on it, and it actually kind of had me intrigued because I didn't even know, I wasn't even thinking about it until you just mentioned something that kind of triggered my memory. H.P. Lovecraft, writing all these different things, and you talk about these certain little gods and the stuff that you've written down. Well, according to the account, if you look back into that, H.P. Lovecraft, there was this incident in Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken, and supposedly cops caught all this stuff in the bayou. It just went down. Something crazy went happen. So whatever he written in his book manifested. It was already manifested somewhere in this like altar memorial thing. It was just crazy with all the little gods that he was writing in his book. So, it makes me think you keep referencing the book of Enoch. And in the book of Enoch, there was, I think it was in, chapter 69 or 65, talking about that man was forbidden to not, when he's writing like unholy things, he's forbidden to write. And it made me wonder. I thought about, Goosebumps, like the new movie too with Jack Black, whenever he had these books and seals, right? Whenever he written it, come off the page, right? So if you think about that concept, is there something going on with that? And then here's another crazy idea. So what we're talking about here is mapping out of the genome of the mind, right? Your hemisync and everything, and you're talking about astral projection, everything. What if, and here's where it gets crazy. AI is advancing pretty fast. Okay. So what if AI gets to that sentient moment and all that just starts coming into a wave where it does it better than a human and it can do all these mechanisms, Project Stargate, Monroe Institute and everything. And what if the H.P. Lovecraft was a legitimate thing, like which it is documented in the newspaper article? What if you do certain things that you write it down, sometimes it just manifests somewhere on Earth? I mean, just a hypothetical for entertainment purposes only. I'm thinking about it. So if mankind can do that, what about what if AI has done it? And that may be what we're looking at too, Rex, in incorporating ancient civilizations, all these different entities. It could be ancient AI. It really could.
Yeah. Yeah, I've thought about the ancient AI hypothesis or synthetic intelligence, and that's a very real possibility. It's probably been far more advanced in the past. So most of the stuff that people call artificial intelligence now is not intelligence. It's computer programs that are taking data sets and it's presenting it like it is intelligent, and it's fascinating. I mean, ChatGPT is amazing, but I don't think it's necessarily sentient. It kind of appears as such sometimes. But when you get into biological computers now, they're working on biological computers and brain organoids, hooking those up to computer chips. That's where you're really going to blur the lines. And I think that they're going to need to use that type of technology to do some of the stuff that we can with our sixth sense. Now, the computers can calculate so many floating points per second now that they're really good at predictive programming. I heard something like 15 years ago, just by you taking your phone with you, if you've got your phone on you for a week, there were programs 15 years ago that could predict what you were going to do with approximately 90% accuracy, just by that 7 days of you carrying your phone with you. So imagine now with the supercomputers and technologies and data miners and data mining, how much they know about people and how much they know about the human condition and what's going to get people to do certain things and act certain ways. And I think that whoever has the keys to the algorithms pretty much runs the show. But as far as like out of body experiences and certain stuff that we might look at as magic or the occult, I think that they would have to use some type of organic computer system to mimic that, unless it was just data sets like predictive programming, understanding what's going to happen before it does. Like a lot of people have questioned some of these major fires and why certain insurance companies canceled a lot of policies in those areas before the fires. And I think it probably has a lot more to do with just computer algorithms and computer programs predicting certain areas and using specific models. And then the computers are coming back, showing that there's a very high probability that area is going to have a fire. So they follow what the algorithm tells them to. And you know what, Brian, man, 5 or 6 years ago, I had an interview with a guy that used to work in the CIA. Really interesting guy. I was referred to him by Greg Allison, which does a lot of work for like the electrical grid and securing the electrical grid. He's an aerospace engineer, super brilliant. But I talked to this guy several years ago, and before the AI craze became really big. And I said, I think that the people that are running a lot of the corporations and calling a lot of the shots in specific organizations are using data from computer programs that model what's going to happen before it does. And he basically confirmed that 6 years ago. So it's like the new mirror on the wall.
Project
Project
Looking Glass. Yeah.
Yeah. Project Looking Glass.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So tell me about, I want to ask you real quick before this is a little bit off topic, but
sure, go.
There's a lot of really weird stuff out there in the Appalachian Mountains and out there in the mountains in Kentucky, right? Like cryptid type stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Bigfoot, Mothman, you name it, Dogman. Dogman's pretty prominent here in Kentucky, so they've been hearing a lot of sightings on it. I've gotten, I don't know, I think I can go back to like the 1700s all the way up to 2018. I have a Google Earth KMZ file where I can go and pinpoint all the certain places all over America. There's a lot in Oregon, but definitely in the Appalachian Mountain area, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, you name it, North Carolina, West Virginia. We've got some cryptid creatures definitely in the neck of the woods. And, I think it's when you look into it and you look at the folklore and you look at the data, you see the giants and then you see Bigfoots, right? And it's almost like they could either be one and the same, and some of these so-called archaeology digs could have gotten tibulas. Obviously, the big is the Bigfoot, right? 8 foot tall, whatever. You got 12 foot tall individuals that have been extracted not too far from in my local community, and people don't even know about it to this day. It just gets washed underneath the rug, so to speak, or dust under the rug. So it's pretty profound to really just have this conversation, because you have the Mothman Festival, you have the Little Green Man Festival in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. A lot of cryptid creatures are definitely in the area. We have fairies not too far from my neck of the woods. You name it, we're conquering it here in this area. So yes, we have a lot. And I think with all the things that have been heightened up here lately, things are we've been seeing a lot of reports of orbs and everything in the local area. So it's kind of surreal where we're going and headed in 2025, indeed. But yeah, Kentucky, what else you want to know about Kentucky? Yeah, go ahead.
What's the scariest thing you've encountered out there, man?
Oh, man. So get this. Okay, here we go. So I have never said this online, so here we go. I almost did about a month ago at one of the convention or conference that we hosted. And so 2004, okay, 2004. And I was driving a little pickup truck. I was at my family's house. And I got this horrible call, okay? And a lady that I cared a lot about at the time, I could hear this scream. I mean, it sounded like a hyena, but like worse, like this demon sound, right? And I knew initially, because I obviously knew who had called me, and I just literally threw the phone. Well, I got my keys, and I erratically just started driving down the street, and my vehicle could only get up to about 94 topped out. It's a 4-cylinder. And I'm not kidding you. I got into a rural area. I know it very well, straight shot. All of a sudden, this is like 12:10-ish, 12:15-ish in the morning, 12 a.m. Something comes across the street, and I'm having to lock the truck up. I tilted to the side a little bit, almost impacted, and literally there before me, no joke, approximately 7 foot, just tall. It looked like a dog man. I'm not kidding you. And it just looked over top of my vehicle. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I dodge it and I try to go in behind a mailbox and get back on the road. And it's just hovering over the vehicle. But then when I turn around and look, I can still see the silhouette and the shadow because my lights are going, I'm leaving it. And you can still see it standing. So what was so weird is I went on and got there to the place where this lady was, and I found her in a really bad state and had to take her to the hospital. Something really bad happened. Okay. I'm not going to talk about it online here, but something really bad happened. So I had to take care of her and take her to the emergency room. Took care of all that, got her squared away. It was a really traumatic experience. So the following morning, I went to work. And believe it or not, back then, I used to work for a soda company. And I was in the local community and all that. And one of the truck drivers, he's an old gentleman, but he knew the area where I was. And so it was so weird and so fascinating. I was in this location. He's discussing this location, and I'm listening to him. He's like, "Yeah, we had some cows back there. certain gentleman that owned the land. He don't know what happened, but it looked like these big claw marks just ripped literally the spinal cord out, and there's these cows split open. And I'm like, I'm just overhearing the conversation. I'm like, what'd you say, Mr. Whitaker? And he's like, yeah, there's something really going on. I said, where's that location? And I'm not kidding you, Rex. It was literally, if the longitude, latitude, and if I had it pinpointed, I was probably approximately 150 yards away from that field where I had to stop that night. So whatever that is, coincidence, I don't know. Call me crazy, call me tin full hat, crazy Billy hillbilly from Kentucky. Something bizarre went down that night. And the only thing I can think about, Rex, is stress, anxiety, like rage, anger, me driving the vehicle. And we have these communications with this interaction. It's like diverting me or something to that level. It knew exactly where I was at, but I did not think my next morning going just through my average day, work day, hearing and then listening to this nonsense. And this man, this farmer, this cattle farmer lost all of his cows. I think it was like 7. Isn't that crazy, Rex? I mean, and that's the only encounter that I've ever had when it comes to cryptid world is a dogman. Yeah.
Dude, that's freaking wild, man. Wow.
2004.
The dog man ripping spines out of cows and running in front of cars.
Call it crazy, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it truly did happen. It was a very weird experience. Yeah.
Oh man. Like there's got to be some wild stuff out there. And there's so many people that won't even go out in the woods by themselves in the Appalachians. So that was by your place in Kentucky then?
Oh yeah. I can take it to the literally the same place today. And what's so surreal about it, there's water. See, like I always think about megalithic structures, rock shelters, and there's always this body of water, either a river or the river will be a creek, which the creek will be usually deemed not a river by like a mile or a half. That's and it's really strange how this all works. And they'll have there's an old sewage system not too far from there. So there's like all this abundance of water. And I literally almost hit a large, like hairy looking wolf man. Yeah. I mean, and look, folks, I wasn't intoxicated or anything like that or under the influence. I'm literally in like a full blown sprint to get to somebody to help them. There was literally a medical emergency and it was dark times. So that happened. I've never shared that online. It's pretty surreal. I've never even shown on a Visual Disturbance channel. It's pretty wild stuff there, Rex. That's all I know. Yeah.
That's
it's just
cool.
Yeah.
That's spooky, but it's cool because, like the whole cryptids thing, I haven't talked to many people that have seen a dog man. Like you're one of the few. I have a friend that's a retired chiropractor that swears he saw a Bigfoot in Kansas in the cornfields. And when he was like, 12 years old. And I said, so what did he look like? He said, he looked like a big ass linebacker. And I was like, wow, okay. But you would usually think of Bigfoot or Sasquatch, like in the mountains, in the super foresty areas, but in the cornfields, I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. And he's not making it up. And I certainly don't think for a second you're making this up either, man. Like I'm going to say, yeah, like I'm 99% sure that what you're saying is legit. And the only reason I can't say 100% is because I wasn't there, but I can definitely tell you saw something. And I'm thinking to myself, what was it, like some super tweaker that was living in the woods that had a beard that was so big and like just look, and you were kind of freaked out anyway. So this tweaker jumps out in front of you, but then you talk about the story of the rancher and the cattle and the weird mutilations.
Yeah. That one just added to it. The next day, I couldn't believe it, and I was like, his name was Ray. I was like, why is this happening? So I was getting all the logistics and everything. They had like the police out there and everything. Like this was crazy. This was like a huge deal back then. And that's 21 years ago. I mean, come on. And if I'm not mistaken, it was around June-ish, if I'm not mistaken, around the June-ish time, maybe 18th, 17th, somewhere in that time frame. I mean, I have a pretty good memory. So 7 to 8 foot tall. I could see its features, everything. It's just a hairy dogman, like just sitting there looking at me, and I'm dodging and weaving. I had a few seconds to even think, and it was just so strange because I was thinking, I'm not exhausted. I'm sound-minded, but what is this? And then I didn't even, when I found out the 6 or 7 cows are stripped down to their skippies, so to speak, we have us a issue. So I never pursued it. Even back then, I was really open-minded to a lot of things, but I did not really realize until I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was like a wolf man. At the time, I remember watching the movies Underworld and what have you, and these Lycan movies. I just thought, well, maybe I'm just my mind. I've watched too many movies. Maybe I'm just like not cognitively here. And when I remember seeing that, it was the only cryptid I've ever seen in my life. But it was the fear. Like I was in a fearful state. That's what I remember. That's so profound to me. I was in a very bad state of mind. So my energy level, my heart rate's up. I'm, heart palpitations. That's what I kind of focus on. And basically what we're talking about tonight with the UFO phenomenon, there's this, ancestral DNA memory, whatever it is, and it's like mimicking or something to that level, or it's like tripping me up. Don't go, that kind of thing, like a fork in the road, stop the car, don't hit the 8-footer, or whatever that is. But what was so interesting was the cows, because I thought it was just like I thought, well, maybe I'm just losing my mind. But then the next morning I hear that, mind blown, mind boggling. You just can't even. So I never even pursued it past that point. They talked about it for a few weeks later, off and on. I never even asked him like anything else about it. I never told him where I was that night or anything. It was the craziest thing I've ever had to experience as far as cryptid world, when I found out what the cryptids was. Strange stuff.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty dang cool, because when you have an experience like that and you don't get hurt, and especially it's kind of like that validation thing, like, wow, like there is more out there. There is a lot of the mysterious and unknown. And you should go back there. You obviously go with some friends and take your GPS and all that kind of stuff. Do not become missing 411, but you should definitely go out there, and that would make a great podcast. Hell, I would love to go out there, man. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't stopped, and I haven't researched it. And especially what I know now, I would have a totally different lens as far as being able to acquire what I needed to look at the landscape and everything and the topography of it. I could really, really go down a rabbit hole with that. Yeah, I might do that. I mean, you take an EMF reader, you look at it, look at the magnetic fields, not too far from that area. I have literally researched a mound that has magnetic anomalies about it. And it's like maybe 5 or 6 miles from that location, give or take. So there's so many different things in this local area alone that is just, to me, not appreciated anymore as far as the architect work and the archaeology stance. A lot of brick homes, that the folklore, the speculation, it's a giant man with red hair and 6 fingers, 6 toes. No joke. You hear that all the folklore throughout here in this area, but you have to ask the certain people. Like certain people, it's like anything else, they just close it off and it's all secluded, like the Smithsonian, they just take off. So one would have to wonder really what we're dealing with. This stuff is so phenomenal. And we really just take a step back and really evaluate. And I will have to go back. I have a family member they live not too far from this location. So I can go back and visit. And if I do, I'll make sure that I video it and everything, Rex. Yeah. Or hey, come on over, man.
I was going to say, I've got Gen 3 night vision. I got thermal. I got, aerial cameras. We got, a matter of fact, I could probably get my friend Lee Wilbarger that has like $150,000 of video equipment on his news van. Maybe we could drive out there, camp out for the night. We could film it. Like, we've got Zoom out to the moon. So let's do it. Let's plan something. This sounds awesome.
That's okay.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man. All right.
It's Bigfoot researching. Bigfoot. There's a lot of Bigfoot enthusiasts around here. I mean, it's a pretty interesting place. A lot of it's picking back up. There is rumors, and I've looked and studied this area. There's an army complex that literally since the Gulf War, the rumor that it is harboring a saucer, a craft, no joke. And the commentary was that Kentucky folks back then was not intuitive or intelligent enough to care anymore. Let's just smuggle it in and put it in this facility. That's the claim. And that's not too far from that Dogman sighting that I seen. So it's bizarre world. I mean, it really is. There's so much to take in, so much to ponder on. And what else do you want to know? I got a testimony too about something that didn't happen to me not too long ago. Pretty profound. But if we have time, for the sake of time, but if you
absolutely.
Yeah.
And talk, and I'm going to show off your channel while you're doing this.
Well,
cool.
Thank you. You didn't have to show that, but thank you so much. It would be an honor. Everybody subscribe. Thank you, Rex, for doing that. You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much. And I'll be blessed to be part of the Visual Disturbance community. I'd like to see you guys. It'd be a blessing to me. So thank you. So here's the interesting thing. Okay. So 2019, a lot of things happened to me. There was a lot of stuff that you just can't even, I mean, the stuff that I've had to go through in the last 6 to 7 years, I don't wish it on my worst enemy. And I don't have many enemies, nor do I even claim to that. I wouldn't wish it on anybody that I've had to go through. But after all this, let's just say all this stuff that's happened to me that has put me in all these glasses and walking on a cane, all these different things, visual issue, brain, all that trauma, it has, changed my life dramatically. But when you think about things on the spiritual side of things, you hear about people having visions and dreams and premonitions, etc. Well, I shared this not too long ago, and I thought it was very interesting for tonight's program tonight. So around 2019, I had this certain dream. Okay. I had a dream of walking into a room, 12 reptilian-like white dressed. The auditorium was looking like medieval, but futuristic kind of technology, had these cloaks, 12 reptilian-like dragon-like creatures. They're all in sync, this hive mind concept, looking at me, just looking at me. And one of them shows up and turns its head in the opposite direction, looks me directly in the eye, and I'm out of control. I'm like hovering in this dream. And the only thing I said, well, I didn't say anything. This other creature said, well, hang on, wait a minute, Jesus is with him, okay? And I come from a Christianity background. So I'm hearing the name Jesus. As soon as that happened, I'm just like, and this door slams, and I'm not kidding you, Rex. I had this like moment where I felt like I fall off into the bed, right? And you can see myself fall down, and all of a sudden I wake up and I'm like not there, not coherent. And when I think about all this, it is surreal, beyond surreal. So there's that account. Okay. Rex, are you still with me? Rex, you still with me?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
Okay, cool. I thought I lost you there.
I got my popcorn, brother. I've just got you full screen right now.
Okay, full screen, man. Just okay. Put your feet up, man. Get a cup of coffee and some popcorn.
Dun, dun, dun.
So that happened with that, and I could tell the architect work and everything. And it's something that it was very vivid and it was very real. I still can't forget it to this day. It was I don't know, like the dream felt very insightful, but like in my mind, it was so surreal. And this vivid experience was something really hard to ponder. So I looked at it and I thought about it and reevaluated. And I thought about it a few times for a couple of weeks. Okay. And this was around 2019 summer. Well, it's give or take around September, October timeframe. And I kind of suppressed it out of my memory. I was like, just get that out of my head. This is crazy. Just get it out of my mind. And it's just nothing to really worry about. It's just my mind playing tricks on me. So later on, a couple years later, I had this other experience. I had a dream, right? It was a dream. And what was so surreal about it, the dream, I end up right back in the same so-called medieval architect work. And I'm just there, but I'm behind a veil, like behind a wall. And all these reptilian creatures and everything are hanging over in this other, like, it looks like a translucent wall. You can see them, but I'm behind the wall and I'm starting to see this shadow-like figure, this silhouette. Well, I don't know about you, Rex, but if you've followed Ross Cohart, the author and he's big into ufology and all that, and the author and I think he's a journalist too, Australian, I believe. About a year ago, he asked, "Has anybody seen the blue being?" And I said to myself, "This is crazy." So I seen his little skit and everything he was putting on and talking about everything that he was informative on. And he said there was quite a few people reached out to him, like emailed him, said, "Hey, look at this blue being. I keep seeing this blue being. What's going on?" You know? And so I was like, okay, scrub that off. Don't worry about it. I'm probably losing my mind here. Just ignore it. But what was so surreal, Rex, is walking like down this hallway, and you can see all this technology, really hard to really explain, but you see the translucent wall, see the reptilians, and there's this dark 8 foot tall, maybe give or take 9 feet tall. And he had like these scales, but it was like almost an emerald blue color, right? And it kind of just, I was froze. Like I couldn't speak to him, but it was almost like a telekinesis, telepathic kind of thing going on. And he resembled a reptilian. Okay. Well, I remember looking at him, gazing in his eyes, and it was like synchronizing to it, like a collective mind. Right. And I was silent. I was listening to him. And I remember saying, like, what do I do here? What's going on? And I was there just for a few moments, and he's like, you could communicate with me, and said, they know you're here. And I looked over and I'm like, what? And you could see the transparent wall, and they looked and turned toward the wall, and he's like, I got to send you back. Well, if I remember correctly, on this, I was kind of close to a device. He said, I got to send you back. And I'm like, what? And you can look, and I remember some of the imagery on it. From what I remember, it looked like Enochian language. Well, he's all of a sudden I just, and I'm going back to the bed. I feel like I fall out of my bed again, or jump out of my bed. Well, for a few moments, man, I could speak like Hebrew and different languages. Like I could, like not literally, but in my mind, I'm thinking, I know how to say this. And all of a sudden I completely woke up, completely got out of that sluggish mindset. And I was like, I've lost everything. What is this? So there's my story of a blue being. Like, dude, what is that? I mean, and then you see the cross referencing of what these people have been witnessing. And I came across a young lady that written a book, and I actually had her on a podcast, and I had no pre-existing knowledge of her or anything. I just randomly had her on with another friend, and we're sitting there interviewing her, and she's talking about this blue guy. And I'm like, what? And sure enough, man, she wrote a book about that's an alien, like a creature that has been taking her these craft and abducting her. And God bless her soul, she's had many trimesters where she's had her baby removed at the 3rd trimester. We're talking alien insanity, right? And she describes a being exactly, almost verbatim what I have, but it's a little bit smaller. He's like a 6.5 feet, I think, if my memory serves me correct. And she said that it's like her handler. And she said it was demonic and she'd get away from it. And she just couldn't stand anymore. And it was something that was with her since a young child. But I've only seen this being in a dream one time. Okay. So whatever's going on, and people that I've just randomly come across, it's strange that this stuff has happened.
The blue being must have showed up as you're talking about it, because we just got disconnected.
Oh, really?
Ack, we come in peace. We come in peace. No.
They just booted you, Brian.
No, he didn't.
The blue being did not want you to talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, stand by. We're going to get Brian back with us.
No way.
What a trip, right? There's some vivid dreams, when you have very vivid dreams that you can almost feel like, Brian, you're back.
Okay. Thank God.
They were listening. The blue being was like, you will not. Okay. But I'll go back. Now I want to know about it even more. So your friend has had like babies disappear. Like,
unfortunately. Yeah. She's written a book. Yeah. Unfortunately.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good. God bless her soul. She's went through it, and I couldn't believe it. It was so strange. I had no clue of what she was or who she was and what she written or anything about her. And she just starts dropping this stuff on a podcast. And I said, hang on a minute, wait a minute. And I was trying to describe the clothing he had on and his scales. And she's like, that sounds like, she's like, "Do you know what I'm talking about?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." But the one that I seen was probably 8-ish, 8.5 feet. Hers is around the 6 to 6.5, 7 feet range. So you have to think maybe two different individuals, but maybe the same thing. I kept thinking draconian. I mean, the Dracos, whatever you want to call them. I kept thinking, where am I at here? What kind of insanity is this? But I don't know. Rex, I shared that, man. There you go. There's my crazy. You can call me conspiracy theorist, what have you, but that legitimately, I would not lie about it. That is legitimately happened to me. It's so surreal. I don't know. Call it a premonition, a dream, a vision. But that truly did happen. But the blue beam, and I thought the connections in the UFO community and Ross Coulthart discussing that blue being, and there's people in other countries. I just couldn't see. I just couldn't imagine. I don't know. It was so surreal. Then he was wanting something from me. If I remember, he was wanting something from me. He showed these imagery, and he was wanting me to do something. And then you see these like the reptilian-like creatures, and then boom, I'm gonna send you back. I've never had any kind of other encounters since then. But when it comes to the crypto world. The cryptids world, and then you look at the UFO phenomenon. That's the only two incidences I've had in my reality. So take it for what it is. Call it quirky Kentucky bluegrass state singing to me bluegrass out here, but seriously, those accounts did happen. It's pretty profound. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's better than a blue chicken. And dun dun dun. Hey, so in finishing. I would really like it if you could let people know how to find your podcasts outside of YouTube. I know you're really popular on Facebook also. You've got like 100,000, I think, on Facebook. And I want you to share those real quick. What I wanted to share with everybody real quick, though, is because we had been talking a little bit about the Book of Enoch. And I think that when the beings that are referenced in the Book of Enoch as the Watchers, or once again, do not call them fallen angels. Call them that at your own risk. But what is referred to oftentimes that way, I think they were highly advanced. I think that they had to leave Mars because Mars was getting obliterated, whether it was Venus that created that mass extinction level event or something else. But I think they had to come to Earth because obviously this is a very survivable planet. They came to Earth, they fell in love with Earth women, and they were like, look, what's going to happen if we do this? We're going to break protocol. But gosh, who hasn't been there, right, guys? Right? You know what I'm talking about. All right. But anyway, the Book of Enoch, chapter 65. This is, and in those days, Noah saw the earth had tilted and that its destruction was near. That sounds like the earth is having some type of pole shift almost or something. He set off from there and went to the ends of the earth and cried out to his great grandfather Enoch. And Noah said 3 times in a bitter voice, "Hear me, hear me, hear me." So that you had brought up chapter 65. I must be chapter 69 that you were talking about. But I thought that right here, in those days, Noah saw the earth had tilted and that its destruction was near. That is a very, very interesting. It sounds like some type of major catastrophe. And it could have been Earth and Mars. Like if Velikovsky's theory is right on Venus, like breaking orbit and just going full comet and having this huge cometary tail of plasma and this plasma arcing that could have eventually created the Valley Marineris. And let me explain this to you real quick, folks. I think this is important if you don't know this theory. So Valley Marineris, I probably spelled that wrong. Yeah. Okay. This is a canyon on Mars that if you have a telescope, you can see it. It's the scar on Mars. This massive scar right here. Oh, it's not showing, is it? No, there we go. Okay, so this massive scar on Mars, the Valley Marineris here, this was most likely created when Venus went into comet mode and it started flying through the solar system, creating a whole bunch of electrical discharge where this plasma started to form around it. And these plasma filaments literally created the Valley Marineris and potentially the Grand Canyon or parts of the Grand Canyon. So that is one of the theories about how this was formed. I've heard people say like nuclear or I don't know about that. That doesn't really look like nuclear. And volcanic, that's the traditional theory for geologists, I guess. So Valley Marineris is the largest canyon in the solar system. This sucker is 4,000 kilometers long. It reaches depths of 4.3 miles, and it is massive. And then there's the Lichtenberg, what's it called? Lichtenberg effect. I'm spelling that wrong. It'll correct it for me. Yeah. So the Lichtenberg effect, check this out. If you look at this, this is created through electricity, electrical arcing. That looks a lot like kind of what we were looking at there, or the Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon is a magical place, man. Grand Canyon, bird's eye view. So put into perspective. Where's it good? Right here. Check this out. Look at this. And then look at the Lichtenberg effect. Spelled it wrong again. Look at that. Very, very similar. So some of these ancient mythologies talking about Medusa. Medusa actually could have been Venus when Venus broke trajectory. There's a strong possibility that Venus and Mars were like in polar alignment with Saturn at one point. And Saturn was brighter. The Earth was much closer. The atmosphere was much denser. It was a completely different atmosphere. And then Venus breaks orbit, and then it just goes flying like a bat out of hell. And now we've got this mythology that talks about Medusa, where, you know, you look at Medusa, you turn to stone. Well, it's kind of what would happen with plasma if you got struck by lightning, potentially. Theories, not down by the river. All right, everybody. So, Brian, real quick, how do we find your work? Please share that with us.
Well, I think the link's in the description. Visual Disturbance YouTube channel. I'll be glad to have you over there. And Facebook, Visual Disturbance, you can find me. If it's the 100-something plus thousand, you'll be able to see it. And I think it's the first one comes up when you search Visual Disturbance. I'm on X. It's a hard one to get a hold of, but Instagram, quite a few social media platforms, but that's the main ones that I run. And I thank you so much, Rex, for having me on. I had a good time, man. Had a really good time just to be able to just throw ideas off of each other. And thank you, my friend, for having me on. It's been a joy, man, just to actually throw some compelling, thought-provoking ideas off each other here. And it's been a good one, man. I'm so glad. And big shout out to Jacob Israel. Thank you, my friend. And I've enjoyed the conversation too here, Rex. And I'm glad that we got to meet up here and do this and collaborate here and talk about Three Eye Atlas and the UFO phenomenon. And I hope I didn't go too long-winded. I'm so glad to see a very kind chat. You got respectful people in the chat and a very cool crowd here. So a big shout out to you guys too. And thank you, Rex, so much, my friend.
Hey, thank you very much, Brian. And looking forward to doing this again. Yeah, we should definitely do another podcast in a month or so. And then maybe you could share with us some cool cryptid stories and we could collab on some other stuff.
Well, I'd be honored. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And also check us out over on Rumble. We actually are doing live shows on Rumble as well. I just want to show you, this is our Rumble page. You can see we're live on Rumble right now. And thank you, Cindy, over on Rumble. Folks, if you would do me a favor and subscribe to us on Rumble, it's totally free. It'll take you 90 seconds to subscribe. And make sure that you're also subscribed to our YouTube channel and that you've hit the bell for all notifications. That way, hopefully, you'll get a notification. I mean, for whatever reason, 417,000 amazing subscribers and 50 people show up from the notification. It's kind of like, well, wait a second. But anyway, it is what it is. You know, they put us on an island over here. So we love the island, and be the change you want to see, everybody. Thank you.